A lot has been made of Kadarius Toney yet to have a touchdown in the NFL, also just 420 yards in his rookie season, although obviously a big chunk of this was the fact that he just didn't play that much. But what is good about him, and what are things that he actually has to improve upon? Well, let's get into it. So first off, something like this. This is a great example of really what Toney can do, and if Toney is going to be a star in this league, this is going to be how he's going to be able to do it, and this is why I fell in love with him at the college level, because he could do this stuff so consistently. The way this play works is it's going to be a cover 3 zone, and you see the defensive back who he's going to be going up against. He's running a route where it kind of fakes as though he's going to be running a flat route, which these routes can actually be deadly against this coverage if he is just running, shallower towards the sideline, because the defensive back would have to come in and make that play, and there's just a little bubble that you can make the throw to. And so in faking as though you're going to do that, but then running deep, the goal is you get the defensive back to move in, and then when you run past him, you can blow by him. And as you see, right when this play begins, look at how hard the defensive back is going to bite on this play. And this is what Toney can do, is he's so shifty and he's so explosive. He gets you to bite in, and then watch what he can do. Look, as you see, he does then just blow by that player. It was an underthrown ball, but he still finds a way to make the grab. So just an incredible play. I mean, this game, he really did go off. He had over 180 yards. It was a fantastic game for sure. I think the concern is maybe he didn't have some consistency, but this game was great. And even something like this, which is certainly a smaller thing, but still a very good play, where what's going to happen is it's zone coverage, and for Toney, he is the receiver who's currently lined up closest towards the sideline, towards the bottom of the screen. His job on this play is a very simple one. It's zone coverage that you're going up against, so he's just gonna, go underneath the coverage essentially. As the other two receivers run deeper routes, they'll push the defensive players further deep to follow them, and then Toney, who's underneath, could get open, you gain some yards. Nothing too fancy, right? How can you even really have a highlight reel level play on something like this? Well, look at how right when this play begins, again, you see it just works out fine. I'm just going to pause it. You see Toney's about to make the grab. This is a solid play to pick up some yards, and maybe you can fall forward and pick up a first down. But one of the things I always felt like Toney didn't get enough credit for, things he's known for, is his explosiveness and his shiftiness. I always felt like he was a very smart player on the field as well, and this is just a fantastic example of him just having a good feel for what's behind him. It's like he has eyes in the back of his head, because watch what he's going to do. Look at him make the catch, and then somehow just know exactly where he has to go, and look at how he nearly got into the end zone for a touchdown on that play. That's what he can do in open space, and quite frankly, that's kind of the number one thing I want to see the Giants do more of next year, is just get the ball to Kadarius Toney more. Just find a way to put the ball in his hands, because if you put the ball in his hands, he can absolutely just be lethal. Like going over to something like this is kind of a great example of what I want to see them do more that they just didn't really do enough of. Is it's zone coverage, again, kind of similar to the last play, not exactly the same, but similar effect, where Toney's kind of being the slot receiver type role here, just step underneath the coverage. As you see, right when this play begins, you do see how Toney is underneath the coverage, and if you threw him the ball here, good things could happen. And that's kind of what I think I would be making a conscious effort to do. If I'm Brian Daboll, I'm saying, hey, let's just give him the ball and see what he can do, especially in a situation like this, where if nothing's open, take the check down and get the ball to Toney. Instead, you're going to see Daniel Jones scramble here, and listen, Daniel Jones is a good scrambler. I don't hate that decision for him to scramble sometimes, but would I rather the ball in his hands or Toney's hands? I'd rather the ball in Toney's hands. So plays like this, where you're not necessarily scheming it up for him to get open underneath, but just like make sure you hit him sometimes, get the ball in his hands, good things can happen. And I think if they do that more next year, we could see him really thrive a lot more. Because again, going over to something like this now, this is kind of a good example of, again, what he can do, where it's going to be just a one-on-one matchup. He's going up one-on-one against Trayvon Diggs, and there's a single safety deep. So this is essentially just a true one-on-one matchup. Look at how right when the play began, so, it has a little bit of a move, and it's, again, looking as though he's going to be going over the middle, and this is kind of, again, what he can do. His footwork is just absolutely absurd. Watch him then cut back to the outside, and he is going to get significantly open and able to pick up a decent chunk play on that one. Again, just a fantastic play. And these are the things that we've seen Toney do when he is on. And quite frankly, this is something we saw him do on the outside, which I felt like one of my other critiques of how the Giants used Toney last year was they tried to make him just like a slot guy a lot of the times, when that's not what he has to be. And I think he can be an outside guy. He can play in the slot, but I think that he can be someone who can win on the outside. And so put him on the outside and let him do things like this where, again, I know some people are going to say, hey, everyone burned Trayvon Diggs at some point, which isn't exactly true, but that's kind of the narrative. But, even with that, this is still an incredible move, and most corners would get burned by it. So yeah, again, he's, when he makes his highlights, they are as exciting as anyone's in football. I still stand by most exciting highlights in college football. The year before he got drafted were his. They were just absolutely outstanding. And it's not just like all he can do is make highlights. He can make some really spectacular plays. I think that he can be used better. I think that there's no denying that, in fact. I mean, there was a couple of those Giants games. Like, Jake Fromm is throwing the football. Like, forget about it. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, a couple of those Giants games, and some of them he wasn't even available for, that offense just looked rough. And so it's hard to blame really any one individual too much with that stuff. So that's kind of why I definitely have a bit of a more wait and see approach. And I also just really like Toney out of college. So that's part of why I'm willing to give him a little bit more time to see how this works. At the end of the day, though, wide receivers are a position that are notoriously difficult to evaluate. It's hard to figure out who is or isn't a good wide receiver until you really have a couple of years at the NFL level, or they just have a breakout year in year one, like a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase did. So I guess LSU guys, maybe. That's the only way to do it. But as a whole, there's a ton to like about Toney, and I'm very fascinated by how he will do next year in hopefully a better situation. The offensive line should be better, and hopefully he'll just be healthier. And that's kind of the main thing that I'm expecting here. So I do find it pretty fascinating, and I do think that this is something that could very much work out, in the long term, although did not work out too well with this first year. So anyways, that's what I think. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on Kadarius Toney? I almost feel like the biggest knock against Toney is that Urban Meyer really liked him. Like, that to me, that's like my biggest concern. It's like Urban Meyer wanted to draft him. Maybe he actually sucks, but obviously that's not how that works. So yeah, like I said, let me know, what did you guys think about Kadarius Toney's rookie season, and how well do you think he could project in the future? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.